existence.
Good morning, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me and see me all right. And we've got Bill from the Bay Area, or should I say, Yay Area. Let me know if you guys know what that's from. Today we're going to be talking about workflow efficiency and some cheat codes or hacks to get your audio post-production chops really sharp. They say iron sharpens iron, so I'm going to be the sharpening stone for you guys and tell you some kind of efficiency hacks that I have, some corners maybe you can cut every once in a while. And I'd love to get your input on everybody watching this live or on the replay. Make sure you let me know what your favorite speed hacks are for audio post-production. So we're going to be talking about dialogue editing, sound effects editing, mixing. We're not going to be talking about picture editing or color correction, any of the visual stuff. It's all going to be audio. And really, even for content creators, the audio side of things seems to be where the strength maybe isn't quite as strong. It's just a little bit, audio's tough. And yeah, so we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about software and workflow and some kind of insider secrets, I guess. But there's a time to go fast and there's a time to slow down and really focus on quality. And you guys, anybody who's watched my stuff on YouTube knows I'm a big proponent of doing things carefully and correctly and taking your time to do quality work, not just crank through a bunch of content. But there's times where you have to go fast. Either deadline's approaching, budget is low, you have too much work on your plate. So we're going to be talking about ways you can speed things up and go faster than your average bear. So let's just jump right. Well, before we jump into the fun stuff, this stream is brought to you by our members only Discord. And I just want to give a couple quick shout outs to Simon, Sean, Brock Landers. I'm just going to use your guys's your name, your Discord names. Obi, Houseagen, who else do we got? Alex, Kevin. You guys and gals have really been driving the discussion on Discord, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for doing that and just keeping the fire burning on Discord. This Discord is for channel members. So if you join the channel as a member, you get access to this. And we've got different sections. I did just add a job opportunities because the time is coming where I will have to probably get some help on some projects. And a couple other members have asked me if they could post gig opportunities. So there will actually be some work generated from this, which will be really cool. And then you're listening to me through a couple different plugins. Uh-oh. Pro Tools didn't like me switching to it. Cedar Screenvox is the noise reduction I'm using. My Streambox has a fan that's kind of noisy, so I've been demoing this. And Cedar has been kind enough to give me a Fast Spring affiliate link. So if you're interested in the best noise reduction on the market, kind of the industry pioneers for real-time noise reduction, there should be a link in the video description. And then also listening to me through my compressor plugin that I made. Really basically made this plugin for my streams. It's an automatic compressor called AutoComp. Makes sense. And you can get this on my website, which is right here, forlowdigital.com. So with that out of the way, let's jump into workflow hacks. So as I said, anybody who has a comment or an idea, just pipe in. We're doing this live, so I will read every comment. I'll share it with people. And then after the video is posted, drop your workflow hacks there because all this is going to help sharpen everybody's skills. And that's kind of what my channel is all about. So the kind of to specialize a little bit in Pro Tools, we're going to talk about DaVinci as well, but Pro Tools specifically, there's a couple things you can do. Really, a lot of this you could apply to DaVinci as well. But organizing your session is a huge workflow tip. You shouldn't have a bunch of tracks named track or audio. Like, you shouldn't have anything that's named audio 2, 3, and 4. And you need to separate things to dialogue, sound effects, ADR, music, etc. Really, the biggest thing you can do to speed that up is you can make a new session for every project, but the number one thing I suggest people do is build templates. Build mix templates. That is the number one thing you can do. If you have a mix template that has all the routing and all the tracks set up, whether you're in Pro Tools or DaVinci, it's going to just get you closer to doing the creative work that much faster. I don't really like having templates for sound editing, but for mixing, they are absolutely essential. So a template is just a pre-made project or timeline or session that has all of your routing, all of your plugins, all the VCAs, all of the kind of back-end organizational work done, so that you literally just open it or create a new project with this template and you're off and running. All the pro mixers have their own templates. People get very protective of them. I suggest watching some template building videos. I've got some. You can also buy templates. I have some on my website, but I recommend you build it from scratch, because sure, this will get you, a great template with everything, all the routing set up. But if anything goes wrong or you want to change it, how are you going to do that? Like here, I've got a Dolby Atmos template you can get, 7.1.4 for film mixing. So yeah, sure, you could get this, but if you want to change stuff, what are you going to do? You're going to have to watch a bunch of videos, and that's maybe not great. You really build it from scratch. So number one thing, have templates. Have templates with preset settings for EQ, compression. Obviously, you're going to be tweaking that for every project, but it gives you a starting point. So number one workflow hack is templates. Get them set up, get them saved, and also save them somewhere where if your machine dies, your computer dies, you can bring them onto a new computer and they're just ready to go. So put them on Dropbox, put them on a thumb drive, whatever. I'll show you guys what I have on my keychain, which is all gnarled up and nasty. I've got a USB stick. This actually is from Avid. You can see how beat up, actually probably easier to see on this one. You can see how beat up this thumb drive is. Avid gave this to me at an event in Burbank, I think, and it's like 8 gigabytes. It's really small, but it's got my templates and my plugin presets on there. So if I go to a different studio, I can just pull my keys out and load it up. So that's a really good, it's always on your person if you do that. So templates are super important. Let me go back to my notes and see. Specifically in Pro Tools, you can kind of do this in other DAWs. Let's say if you're editing sound effects, we're going to jump around a lot. So if it's a little kind of back and forth, it's just because I want to have it be varied enough for sound effects editors, dialogue editors, and mixers, and not have anybody get too bored. So we're going to talk about sound effects workflow hack. One thing you can do that's really nice is to have region groups. So I'm just going to make kind of like dummy groups here. I'm going to say this is a punch. I'm not going to play anything for you guys, but let's say this is a punch slap, and this is a punch mid, and this is a punch low, and this is a punch whoosh, and this is a punch bone. So this is kind of how I like to build punches, and really the timing of these is kind of important. Whoosh first, and then line up these. These are going to be pretty short, and then the bone has to happen, the crunch of the bone has to happen a little bit after, a couple frames after the impact. These are end up going to be super short. Okay, so you got a punch here, and let's say you make 10 of these punches. How can you fly these around to the session? Well, what I like to do after I cut a group of sound effects is let me bring up Keycaster so you can see this. I like to make a region group. So see Option Command G, and I'm going to call this punch 1. So now if I want, in a different reel or down the line, if I need to add some more punches, I can go here, and I'll even label it like TB, or let's say the show's name is Face Slapper, so I'll do FS punch. I can search for punch, and I'll see all the individual elements here, but I'll see this region group at the top, and now I can just drag that in, and I can fly this around. So region groups is a huge workflow hack for sound effects. Backgrounds is another one. And the nice thing about a region group is if you need to adjust it, you can always right click and ungroup it, and you can mix things up, maybe swap out a couple sounds, change the timing. For faster punches, the whoosh will happen way closer to the actual punch. Maybe you don't want to have a bone crunch, and you can create varieties out of just a handful of sounds by mixing and matching. So that is another workflow hack specifically for sound effects, is region groups, grouping them. And again, in Pro Tools, that shortcut is Option, this is Mac, so Option Command G. Option Command G is, that's got to be highlighted. Option Command G is a region group. So unfortunately, if you undo and redo, then you have another duplicate here, which kind of stinks. So then you'll have to right click and clear it. And yeah, that's kind of annoying. But every program has its kind of, I don't want to say a bad word, but they're poop house ways, as we would say in the US. So let me just go through the comments real quick and see. Simon recommends saving plugin presets in the session folder. Yeah, that's a really good thing to do. Mike says with the region groups, if you group it to the grid, you can line it up with cuts or specific points. Yeah, that's great for backgrounds. If you had a bunch of backgrounds and this was like apartment BG, then I'm not in grid mode, so let me redo that. In grid mode, apartment BG1, then you can zoom in and see it's to the frame edge. So with backgrounds, I will do a 2-frame crossfade like that. So you'd actually have to paste it at the frame before the cut, but you could totally do that. So really good input there. Batch fades can kind of speed things up. It's really for not quality work. Like if you have, maybe you just open an AAF and they're like, hey, I've got 2 hours for you to spend on this. And you're like, okay, but I can't really edit dialogue. Then you can do batch fades. So 82 milliseconds is about 2 frames at 24p. So then just do equal gain, equal power. Do create new fade-ins. I like to do equal gain on ins and outs. And then you've got a bunch of fades set up. So at least you won't get any ticks or pops, but you will get huge ambient shifts if you use batch fades. Joe is requesting Izotope cheat code. So let me add that to my list. This would be, yeah, okay, I'll put this on here. And I got to be careful of time because I do have work. I got lots of work today, so I got to kind of get through stuff. Okay, so that is good. We talked about session data, keyboard shortcuts. So one cool thing, both in Pro Tools and DaVinci, is the ability to set up, where is it? Set up, yeah, keyboard shortcuts. This is like, for me, it's semi-recent because I've been using Pro Tools since like 2004, 2005. So the ability to set up your own keyboard shortcuts in Pro Tools is awesome. You can search by key. One of the keys I always hit accidentally is Y, so I removed that binding immediately because it's right by the zoom in and zoom out, and I would always like be one key off and hit Y and it'd go to the start of the session. I really don't like that. Mr. Nelson, will reassigns be covered in the stream? I can talk about reassigns. Let me put that on here. If I forget it, let me know and I'll go back to it. You guys are getting all my typing mistakes. Seems like the more I use computers, the worse I get at typing. Okay. So Simon says, is there a way to, Simon asks, is there a way to manage clips in big sessions? The last film I made, the session was like 500 GB. And when I archived the project, the session copy was only, oh yeah. So to do that, just make sure you're clearing, make sure you're select unused and clearing stuff that you don't need. Just hit remove. I like to do that, especially conforms, because conforms create a bunch of orphaned clips. So yeah, do that before, especially before you do a save session copy. Go over here to your clip and select unused and then clear, which I can't because there's no unused ones. So that will say, it won't save you hard drive space, but it will keep your sessions tidy, which will make them run faster. Okay, so let's now we'll just talk about reassigns real quick. So to set this up, this is a specifically dialogue reassigns. So I'm going to make 2 new mono DX reassigns. And what you do is you basically, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can set these to a dummy output. Basically, I think, can you do, I don't think you can do no output, but maybe. And then you can do a send. Yeah. So you can set these to no output, and then your dialog reassign, you have to decide if you're going to use to aux, how you're going to use these dialog reassigns. Are you going to use them as like, one of these is for really noisy dialogue, one of these is for not so noisy dialogue? Is it that it's really just an A/B? If you're going to use these as A/B and they're going to have the same plugins, you would have, I'll just do this real quick, an EQ, a noise reduction, and then a de-esser, sure, that one, and then a compressor. We'll use Pro Compressor. You probably will have a limiter at the end. Let's see, Pro Limiter. Okay, so I'm going to copy this down. So I'll explain kind of, okay, so I've got 2 mono auxes here. They have the same plugins. They might have different settings to start with. But the way you can do this is going to be predicated by how the dialogue is cut and how you've asked the dialogue to be cut. But on all your dialogue tracks, these are all set to no output. So right now, these dialogue tracks are going nowhere. What you do is you decide first off, do you just want everything going to the reassign 1 to start with? Let's do that to start with. We're going to assume this first reassign is our meat and potatoes. So now I'm option clicking and I'm dragging all of these bus sends to each of these tracks. So all the dialogue is going to reassign 1 right now. Now I'm going to set up reassign 2 to negative infinity. So the starting point for these 12 dialogue tracks, they will only be going to this reassign 1. They will not be going to reassign 2. So I'm going to copy and paste this down. And now all of my, not now, right about now, all 12 dialogue tracks are going to reassign 1. I can add EQs on these. That's probably the limitation of what I'm going to do, is just add an EQ in case I have to rebalance any of the individual microphones. But I'm going to really be working on these buses for this. Now, if I have A and B dialogue tracks, I can send the Bs to dialogue reassign 2. So at scene crossovers, I can go from A to B or 1 to 2. The other way to use this is to, like, you can mute this and automate the mute. You can do pre-fader sends. The cool thing about having it be level is you can mix and match. So like if this dialogue reassign 1 is for clean dialogue, I have Cedar is not even working. reassign 2 is for nasty dialogue, like super noise reduced. Well, you could actually double bus, and you could send dialogue 2 to reassign 2, dialogue 1 to reassign 2. And now you can use these two faders to mix the dirty with the clean, and it's like it's just a totally different way of working. So your dialogue tracks, the output goes nowhere, and they're using auxes to route it through each reassign, which then each of these goes to your 5.1. You can pan these, like if these are set to a, I don't think I have a 5.1. I'll just set this to bus 1. You can pan these separately. So if you have off-screen lines, like maybe mom's yelling from upstairs on dialogue 8, you can go here and pop that up and pop reassign 1 down, and then just add reverb to reassign 2 or pan reassign 2 wherever it needs to go. So that's how you can use dialogue reassigns. It's maybe not faster to do it that way, but in the sense that you're really then working on 2 aux tracks instead of audio tracks, maybe that's a little bit faster. I prefer working on the tracks and treating each audio clip as it's kind of its own thing. But if you're against, if you're trying to get stuff done quickly, working on a bus is one set of plugins versus 12. So that's a good question, and hopefully that helps you kind of understand that workflow. Okay, so a couple other software kind of solutions that have come up over the past couple years. So when you're editing dialogue, one of the biggest things you have to do is find alts. Alts are their alternate reads of a line. So if somebody says happy birthday, but it doesn't sound very good, you have to go through all of the other takes to find a clean happy birthday. So how we used to do that is listen to all the production sound and try to find it and kind of know that happens about a minute into the file. Well, there's some great tools. One of them is Absentia DX. This will help you find alts. It has the alts finder down here, which I'm not going to show you because the show I'm working on, I can't share it. Another option for that is, let me bring it up in a window, is the Kraken Dialogue Editors Toolkit, which I'll show you here. Yeah, we can put it right there. So this is made by Mark Spector, and oh gosh, I forgot the developer guy he was working with. But Mark's a really great guy. He's from England, and he made this toolkit for dialogue editors, which helps you do so many different things. It helps you assemble production dailies. It helps you find alts and basically manage the data that you would have to deal with in a dialogue edit. Downside is it's kind of expensive. It's $900. So if you're working professionally as a dialogue editor, that's a day and a half of work. You can totally, eat that cost. But if you're cheap like me, I don't want to eat a $900 cost. I want to spend that on like 3 grocery trips. So for me, Absentia DX, I've already paid for this. It's like $50 a year or whatever. It's very affordable, and it helps me find all the alts I need. So those 2 pieces of software can help speed up workflows for finding alts, which takes the second most time of a dialogue edit. It's a terrible way to put it. The most time consuming thing with dialogue editing is actually creating production fill. And for that, I also use Absentia DX. You can see Absentia DX gets a workout when I'm cutting dialogue. The airtone generator is head and shoulders above the Izotope RX ambience match. It takes a incredible amount of time to work. You have to sit and wait, but the result that it spits out is usually a pretty good match to the production fill. So Absentia DX is doing double duty for me. It's finding alts, and it's also creating room tone fill to make my dialogue edit smooth. So Those are 2 workflow hacks with 1 piece of software. So to me, that's a pretty good value. All right, next on the list, we talked about reassigns, keyboard shortcuts. Oh, clip gain. Okay, so this is a workflow hack or cheat code that will require you to spend more time and be a little bit careful, but the end result is going to be that your mix is going to go faster, and that is clip gaining stuff. Let me see if I can find, do I have anything in here? I thought I had, yeah, I've got some dialogue here. We were working on this like last week, I think. So you can see, let me turn off the timestamp. We don't need that. You can see that these are clip gained. If I take off the clip gaining, and I know there's a shortcut for that. If I turn off the clip gaining, unfortunately, the boom, it looks like there's almost nothing there. Well, this was recorded 32-bit floating point, and so there's a lot there, and it sounds pretty good. So clip gaining up to, yeah, sometimes you'll have to go up 20 dB, 32 dB, whatever it takes to get it to where it's close to broadcast level. This does a couple of things. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to switch. So let me redo that. Okay, so here's the boom. You can see it looks like there's nothing there. Here's the lavs. It looks like there's a lot there. So I turn the boom up. All of a sudden, hey, it's great. Now I can hear it. I can see it. It's easier to edit. And with 32-bit, you can actually see more detail. You visually see because there's more information in the file with 32-bit floating point. So clip gaining does a couple things. Number one, it helps your edit. Your edit is going to be better because you are able to hear stuff. It's louder. You're going to be pickier on what you're cleaning up. Number two, it's helping all of your plugins in the chain have proper gain staging. If this boom was down here and I'm having to bring this up and I'm having to boost here and I'm having to boost on my compressor just to get it up, well, that doesn't really help. I'm having to automate threshold on stuff a lot more. So having the clip gain be correct, having this be a nice healthy level is a key part of any editing, really, dialogue editing or sound effects editing. And there is Dynassist, which I've heard good and bad things about. So you can use Dynassist. Another thing you can do, which doesn't require you to spend more money, is use Normalize, or Defaulter is another one you have to spend money on. You can use Normalize. Be very careful with this because if you have a bunch of tiny little clips like this, it's going to look at each clip and it's going to set the values all over the place. I'll show you this. Individual files, clip by clip. Let's do peak. Let's have it peak at -3. Oh my goodness. Let me clear the clip gain first. Sorry about that. Try again. So this is the downside with using Normalize, is it's looked at each one of these and it said, oh, this room tone here needs to be brought up more than this. And so this is really only good for super clean stuff, or if you have big long clips. I don't really suggest using it for a bunch of tiny edits like this, but for voiceover, you can do that. For really clean dialogue, you can do that. Yeah, and Simon's dead on. Avoid Aura. It's very unstable and glitchy. I've heard really negative things about people using Autoline Post 2 with Aura and Dynassist and Izotope, and it just doesn't seem to stick, a lot of the stuff. So Defaulter is another plugin. Let me bring that up real quick. Defaulter. I think it's by Cargo Cult. Maybe not. Oh, it's Quiet Art. Right, it's Quiet Art. So Defaulter is kind of cool. I think I demoed this and it didn't quite work. And what this does is it'll actually set your clip gain instead of making new audio files. So I've heard it's good. I tried it and wasn't super impressed with it. But it's probably because I'm dealing with noisy stuff, and it's going to just read the noise too. It's not dialogue intelligent. So yeah, your mileage may vary with that. Joe is asking for dialogue clip gain. You mentioned before aiming from -27. So the way I do that is I will, kind of like I'm monitoring my stream right now, I'll just have Pro Limiter up, and I'm looking at the short term and integrated. Short term, I may be a little less concerned about. Having a calibrated studio is great because you're not grabbing the volume on your speakers, and you can kind of listen and hear, yeah, this sounds loud enough, or it doesn't. That just comes with experience. But in the meantime, grab Pro Limiter or Insight 2, or in DaVinci, there's the loudness meter there, and just make sure you're integrated. This long-term value is about -27. Some scenes are going to be louder and some scenes are going to be quieter, but if your clip gaining is averaging around -27 total, to include, if you're using boom and lav together, to include the sum of those microphones, then you'll be all set, and your plugins are going to be happy, and the mix is going to go smooth. You're not going to be having to like boost up 12 dB to start with, and it's just good. Yeah. So really good question. Okay. Travis Shaver says auto run with defaulter is kind of nifty to get you in the right range. It needs to be fine tuned. Yeah, I just like to clip gain stuff manually because it works every time. It does take more time, but it works every time. So yeah, so that's a workflow hack, is basically clip gain staging makes it to where the little bit of time you spend in your edit doing clip gaining is going to save you tons of time when you get to the stage of mixing. Or if somebody else is mixing it, it's going to save them time. So that covers that. Noise reduction. Somebody asked about Izotope. Let's move over to Izotope. The nice thing about Izotope is it doesn't really matter what platform you're on, whether it's Pro Tools or DaVinci or Final Cut. Maybe Final Cut doesn't work with it very well, but we are going to look, and I need this to be that, and I need it to be that. Okay, yeah, you guys can see this. We're not going to be listening to anything in here, but I will show you the number one thing with Izotope, and I probably spend half my day in Izotope. Like today, I'm going to be dialogue editing. Half my day will be spent looking at this type of window. So how do we speed up our Izotope workflow to be fast and not get mired in switching between softwares? Well, how we do that is in keyboard shortcuts. So go to Izotope RX 11, click that, then go to Preferences. You can also do Command, comma, and it says Audio, Display, Keyboard. So I've got a preset here. TB, I actually shared this, I think, in our members-only Discord, this preset. So let's see what I have set for declick. Well, apply declick is set for 1 on my keyboard because this is my number one most used command. So the way I like to set up the keyboard shortcuts is I like to have them right under my left hand on the keyboard. I don't have a Stream Deck or a bunch of giant steampunk levers I got to reach over. Everything, I have to move my fingers about 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters or whatever that is for you non-standard measurement users. And declick is number 1. What about decrackle? That's number 2. What about spectral repair? Oh, goodness. Attenuate. Number 3. So 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 that I use a lot. Deplosive is another one I use a lot. This one I started using so much, I actually assigned it to the tilde on my keyboard, which is, further left than number 1. So figure out what your top, I would say 5 or 6 commands in Izotope are, assign them to keyboard shortcuts, and then look how quick it is to actually use them. Keycaster's on, so I should be able to do this, and this, and this, and this. I'm just manually declicking stuff right now. These are no good. And there's a little remnant of the click, so I'm gonna hit 3 to spectral repair attenuate. And this is no good. And actually, let's do more of that. So instead of batch processing this whole thing and saying, guess what? Declick everything. Guess what? Dehum everything. Guess what? Let's dialog isolate everything. Don't get into this habit because it's gonna make things sound awful. Do it manually, spot clean it, and do it with keyboard shortcuts so you can just zero in and clean things up piece by piece. So this is, it might seem like, oh, Tom, that's going to take forever. That's the opposite of a speedy workflow, but you have to balance speed with quality. So the keyboard shortcuts are the speed. The quality comes in like laser precision sniper, just like with your scope zoomed in, and you're just taking out the imperfections. You're not washing over the entire file with a process. You're like laser focused, precisely removing the imperfections. And yeah, that's a great way to go. However, there are times where you don't have that time. You can't do that. So in Izotope, a great thing for those times where you can't be a sniper and you need to be the machine gunner is module chains. And I have a bunch of module chains. Actually, you can buy these on my website. But like I worked on this vertical series, this vertical, what do they call them? They have a different term for them now, microdrama. And I needed to get through this entire 90-minute feature, vertical feature in like 5 days, I think, to include dialogue edit and mix. And I almost didn't take the job because it's like, it's just not possible. Well, how do I find a way to do this? Module chains. So here's my module chain for this vertical series that I worked on. First is a leveler. I want to optimize it for dialogue. I want to set it to -20 because it's mobile delivery. So I wanted to preserve some of the dynamics. All this was set as the first step in the chain. Next, they shot this on location. There was a lot of hums. They shot it in strip clubs and bars. So I wanted to dehum the files. And, the mics weren't clean, so I needed to decrackle. But I have just a little, I'm just shaving it with like a razor blade, just taking a little crackle off the top. And then finally, I used Acon Digital Extract Dialogue. You can see it's set to -4.9, so just a little bit of attenuation just to clean it up because, they shot it fast and they didn't really control the noise on set. So this whole thing, I would run this on every single clip for this whole 90-minute show. And it saved me so much time. It was great. And it's one of the few times where I decided I would break my rule and just go for speed and efficiency. Because I wanted to use my skills to mix it and make it sound as good, but I didn't have the right amount of time. So let me get through the monotonous stuff as quickly as possible so I can focus on the bigger picture. That was kind of my thought behind that. So yeah, that in Izotope, you can speed things up with module chains and you can speed things up with keyboard shortcuts. Huge workflow hacks there. These two things will create a monster with your Izotope skills. Like people are gonna sit behind you and they're just gonna be in awe of how quick you can get through stuff with keyboard shortcuts specifically, but then module chains for when you don't have time to be a sniper and you have to be a machine gunner, spray and pray, baby. Just use accuracy through volume, as they would say in the military. Okay, so that covers some Izotope workflow hacks. Thank you for asking. Who asked this? Let's see. Somebody asked about this, and it was a great thing to cover. Simon says, do you have a default preset for each module when you press the keyboard? Yes. Well, so the way the Izotope presets work is it just uses your last setting. So that is maybe kind of a gotcha to worry about with like declick. For me, because I'm mostly focusing on high frequency clicks, the algorithm I use is multi-band, frequency skew 5, sensitivity cranked to 8, and then click widening is pretty cranked too. So this is not a good setting for batch processing. This is not this kind of setting. This is a sniper 30-06 round to the dome. In the module chains, it is very subtle. Like I'm just doing multiple processes with a light setting so that I'm not chewing up the dialogue too much. But for the keyboard shortcuts, it's going to use whatever settings the modules are set to. So if you tweak it back. You know, try to have like kind of your go-tos and know that whatever you push on the keyboard, it's just going to use the last setting. So we talked about that. Dynamics. We talked about clip gain. That was good. And Resolve keyboard customization. Let's look at this really fast. I should be able to run both these softwares simultaneously. So Resolve, you know, I have spent some time learning because I think, well, it's actually come in handy. Actually, I helped a local filmmaker sort of mix their indie feature, a horror feature. They didn't have the time or budget for me to do what I would normally do. And I told them, like, for a horror film, 4 weeks minimum, 8 to 12 weeks would be better for audio post. They didn't have that kind of budget. So, you know, I said, well, what if we just keep the project in DaVinci and I'll help you guys get it set up and I'll tweak stuff and I'll pan things in surround. I can give the timeline back to you guys and you guys can finish it, you know, because if you can only afford 3 days, I'll spend 3 days on it. That's how we'll work it. And it sort of worked, but DaVinci's a little flaky. So I ran into some issues with automation and other things that I can talk about in a different video. But basically in DaVinci here, let me see if there's anything. Yeah, I'll just open up this. Okay. So in DaVinci, this video will come out either this week or next week. Yeah, okay. Failed to enable video output mode because I'm using it in Pro Tools. So DaVinci is going to keep saying that. Keyboard customization. They have a Pro Tools preset here, which I'm trying to remember how you get to this. Yeah, okay. So in keyboard customization, you can set it to Pro Tools, Media Composer, Final Cut, Premiere. Like they're really trying to say, hey, whatever software you're coming from, just use the keyboard shortcuts you already know. You don't have to relearn them. And that's a great thing about DaVinci. You can see I've made my own preset here, which has, it's based on the Pro Tools one where I can still zoom in with RNT, which I really like. I can still do breaks, I can still break clips. I can do other stuff, which is like, you know, kind of Pro Tools specific. So use the keyboard shortcuts in DaVinci just like you would in Pro Tools. And that, you know, set them up to your most used ones. If you're used to a certain workflow, just customize them. And it's cool that we can do that now. So yeah, great workflow hack is just basically make the technology work for you instead of the other way around. So that is a huge one. Okay. Sounds of Stories. Thanks to the amazing compressor. Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Capital Trading Concepts. Do you also mix music? Yes, I do mix music. I just sent off a music mix for a band in Florida, and I've worked with big jazz bands and rock bands and a lot of hip hop. Done a lot of hip hop. Actually, I had a hip hop studio in Los Angeles. Tons of stories from those days. Yeah, maybe some I can't actually talk about. So, yeah, there's a Pro Tools preset in DaVinci, and you can just kind of set it up however you want. So that's a good kind of DaVinci specific one. Let's see. Timeline markers you can do in both. Fairlight basics. I've covered a lot of that stuff. Automation and bus structure is kind of like Pro Tools, although the patch bay thing is a little weird. We talked about templates. This is kind of general efficiency hacks, like cross-platform. Doesn't matter what software you're using. Another one, getting into kind of file management, is naming conventions. So if you have sound effects tracks, make sure you are consistent. Like I use M sound effects for mono sound effects. If I do stereo, it's going to be ST sound effects. For dialogue, I'll use DX. The other thing is the actual session names. Make sure you have a date on your session that you save. Make sure you have backups. I like to do the date kind of backwards, where it's like the year, the month, and the day, because then in a series of files, they'll be lined up perfectly in chronological order. So if I did 2509, no, yeah, it is 09, 250909 for September 9th of 2025, and then I have another one that's 250910. The 10 will be below the 9 because the last two digits need to be, sequential. So naming is important, organization, all that stuff sounds boring, and like, why can't I just have audio files and save my sessions as Pro Tools one? It's because when you have to go find stuff, you're going to be slowing yourself down. So take the time to be organized up front, and when when things fall apart and you got to scramble, you'll know where everything's at. Things will be organized, and you don't have to freak out. Color coding is good too. I like to color code my tracks and my regions so that I can, when I'm scrolling through, it's just easy to see stuff. Try to use contrasting colors as much as possible. Unfortunately, DaVinci doesn't have as many colors for tracks. Pro Tools has way more. And it's weird. DaVinci's a visual program for editing, and the audio tracks have like 8 colors you can pick. So yeah. Hafid says, you've helped me a lot in my career and you're still helping a ton. Thank you. I'm really glad. That's the whole reason I started this channel. Mr. Nelson says, how can one figure out which food group of sound effects goes into A, B, C, D tracks? Excellent question. So for food grouping sound effects, which is grouping like sounds with each other, there's 2 ways to do it. If you're okay with having a lot of tracks, like 500-600 sound effects tracks, keep it consistent. Maybe sound effects A is all your doors. Then you can just label it sound effects doors. Maybe sound effects B is all your punches, B is vehicles, C is sound design. You can get super granular with how you separate things out. But when I'm cutting sound effects, I like to look at the scene as a mini movie. So I'll have A, B, C, D, E sound effects tracks and say, well, for this scene, there's a lot of doors. So I might break out the doors on A and B. Or in this other scene, it's all cars. So I might have A, B, C, D tracks for different vehicles. Maybe A is the good guy car, B is the bad guy car, C is all the police vehicles, D is a helicopter. But that'll be consistent through that scene, and it'll also be consistent from scene to scene. So if we have another action chase car scene, those cars are going to be consistent. So if the mixer needs to grab automation, or I need to grab a sound, I know sound effects A is where all the hero car stuff is. So I can just visualize and go back there. So you have to decide if you're going to do it like quarantined groups, or if you're going to use these sound effects tracks as flex tracks and say, I have A, B, C, D groups. I'm going to use them for each scene how I need to, but I'm going to be consistent in how I use them. So hopefully that answers that question. Color coding. Okay, monitor setup. I could talk a little bit about that. That's pretty good. So I use 2 monitors, and you're really looking at one right now. I think, can I grab this camera? How much rope do I have on this? I'm going to attempt to show you 2 monitors here. Okay, so I've got 2 monitors set up. You can actually see my multi-stream up there. In Pro Tools, I will have plugins on my second monitor. So like, I'll have my EQ over here. And if you turn off the little red dot, you can actually have multiple plugins up. So you can kind of see that. I've got my plugins over here on my left monitor, my edit or mix window, usually edit window on the right, and then up top I'll have the actual video. Like, you know, for a visual project, you have a video reference, I'll have that. So I like to have 3 monitors, video playback, edit, and plugins on the left. And that way I can keep like loudness monitoring or EQ automation. It's just right there. Control surfaces also help you with workflow. You can see I've got the S1. It's kind of under my monitor right now. And for when I'm editing, you know, I'm really concerned about ergonomics. So I've got a wrist pad so I can be on the mouse and on the keyboard. For mixing, I'll actually take the wrist pad off, move the keyboard back, and then slide the mixer towards me because I'm going to be on here all day. So 2 different ergonomic setups when I'm editing. I don't really need the S1 other than to feel fancy. And having different setups for different processes helps you stay, you know, pain-free, 1, but also 2, it helps you keep your hands, eyes, and ears in the sweet spot. Okay. Track commitments. If you're using a bunch of plugins, you can commit tracks. And in Pro Tools, you just right click and commit or freeze. I don't really do that because I always have to go back and tweak stuff, but it's something you can do. And I talked about that. All right. Any other comments about workflow hacks you guys have? Hafid says, I have a film that I mixed and then some changes were made. What is the downfall of reconforming the whole thing using the stems? Okay. If you reconform the stems, then you're really locked into the transitions. But the plus side is you don't have to reconform hundreds of tracks. And also it kind of limits the client's ability to say, you know, Hafid, I'd like to remix the dialogue, or I'd like to change the balance of this. If you're upfront with them and say, hey, I'm going to reconform this from the stems, so the mix decisions made as far as individual elements are going to be locked. Obviously, new music will change some stuff. As long as the clients are okay with that, it's going to save you tons of overhead on your computer and just kind of mental overhead with having to reconform that many tracks. So there's some pluses and minuses with it. It is a lot faster. Mr. Nelson says, how does sending the picture editor, the dialogue, music, and sound effect stems make reconforming easier? You guys are like right on the same page. So if the picture editor reconforms from your mix stems, it does really 2 things. First, it gets the picture editor, producer, and director used to listening to your mix. They're not going to be listening to the raw tracks and have you go back to the mix. They're going to be locked in. Hopefully they really like it and they don't ask you to change stuff. They can always listen to it 100 times and get annoyed by things and say, actually, we want you to change this. But the nice thing about the stems is when they send you an AAF with dialogue, music, and sound effects stems, you can then reconform each group of your tracks to their stems. So instead of just moving it to line up with the picture, maybe they move the music here, they move this cue around, or they carried the backgrounds under it, but the dialogue drops off. You can see all the decisions they've made and match them in Pro Tools and get a perfectly seamless result. So it's really nice to get them the stems for reconforming. All right, just a couple kind of things for workflow efficiency that aren't really, I guess, creative. They're kind of creative, I guess, but the business side of things, not a lot of people talk about. You know, people sell you plugins and templates and, you know, try this workflow hack, which is what we're talking about. But if you're running a business or you're a freelancer, if you're a freelancer, you're running a business, whether you like it or not. Having the administrative and financial side of things somewhat efficient just saves you a lot of headaches. So I use QuickBooks for invoicing and for doing my accounting and bookkeeping. There's other options. For years, I did it by hand. I had a Google sheet with all of my finances, every penny spent, every penny made, all my taxes paid, and I did it all by hand. And having software that I can just dump stuff into and have it tell me, here's your profit and loss for the month, or here's how much quarterly taxes you need to pay, or hey, this person hasn't paid their invoice. All that is worth a lot of just taking it off my plate. So it's good to invest a little bit in some of those tools outside of plugins and Pro Tools and sound effects and all that stuff. Invest in the tools that take away the managerial, accounting, CFO type of work and automate it or make it easier for you so that you can focus on the creative side of your work. So that is a huge, huge thing. As far as like organizational stuff, we didn't really talk about sound effects organization, but Soundly, I'm huge on, like sound effects organization. I've got my sound effects on a network drive and I can quickly find anything I need. So something like Soundly or SoundMiner to organize your sound effects. You also can organize production sound with it. You can see I've got 1923 and Lioness and some other collections of production sound, so I could search for different things. So that organizational back-end side of things is huge, and it really will speed up your workflow to have software solutions that can take some of the work off your shoulders. Let's see what else. QuickBooks, talked about that. The other thing, and this is something I'm not great at that I'm trying to improve, is not being afraid to sub stuff out. I've been burned in the past, and I also have a certain quality level that I expect. And so finding people I trust who I can say, hey, I need some help on sound effects, or do you mind mixing this for me, is really tough. And it's a difficult thing to let go of, the control over stuff. And it's easy to just say, I'm going to do everything myself. But the downside to that is you're kind of limited in the amount of projects you can take on. And there's a lot of talented people out there, people that are better than you, people that are way better than me. And by limiting yourself to just your own skills, you are going to limit your profitability, the number of projects you can take on if you're going for volume, and you're going to get burnt out. So it's kind of like me telling myself, hey, I need to let go of some of this. I need to start farming some stuff out. And that's why, like on our Discord here, I added job opportunities, because the day is coming, it's coming soon, where I'm going to post on here, hey, I don't have time for this. Does anybody want to mix this short for me? Or can you cut sound effects? And it's going to be paid work. And I'm going to have to just let go of that control and trust somebody. So having those people that you trust, that you can call on when things get really tight is really important. And it's going to help you spend more time with your family or just do the things that you love. So that's kind of like Tom, me, when you watch this, if you watch this, don't be afraid to farm stuff out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. So listen to yourself. So yeah, that's it. I think, it's 9 o'clock. I kind of got to get to work. So if you guys have any parting comments on speeding stuff up, I'll just zip through this real quick. Thank you guys for your patience with me as I kind of bounced around through different things. Ergonomics. Yeah, James, maybe I'll do an ergonomics video. Yeah, so let's see, I got to that. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty light stream today. We didn't have too many people, which is fine. A lot of people find the streams afterwards. They come back to it. Yeah. So we're good. I think I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to the channel members who support the channel. All your discussions and questions and answers on Discord. It's great. I check it every single day. And I encourage you, if you're a channel member, to just pipe in. There's kind of like the heavy hitters who are always talking, but I need to do a better job of asking questions and answering questions on there. And also thank you to anybody who just watches my content. You don't have to be a member or anything or a subscriber. It all helps, and it helps me continue this. So I'm going to sign off. I'm going to get to work on this show that I've been working on. And I will have an edited video out on Thursday, this Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And next week, Thursday, I'll have I'm going to try to get back to doing one stream and one edited video every week, but I have some like construction projects that I need to do too. So we'll see how long that lasts. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'll see you next time. Till then, take care.